Now, let's talk about food preservation. For centuries, we humans have been trying to keep our food from going bad. We've pickled it, salted it, canned it, and dried it in the sun. These are all good, solid methods, each with its own history and science. But what if I told you there was a way to preserve food that keeps it almost exactly as it was when fresh, just without the water? A method that locks in flavor, color, and nutrients for decades. This isn't science fiction, folks, this is science fact. We're talking about freeze drying, a process that is both incredibly cool and quite literally, very cold. It's a high-tech way to make food last a very, very long time. So, what exactly is freeze-dried food? Imagine taking a beautiful, ripe strawberry. It's juicy, sweet, and full of water. Now imagine you could magically remove all of that water without cooking the strawberry or changing its shape. What you'd be left with is a super light, crispy version of that same strawberry. It would still look like a strawberry, and once you add water back, taste remarkably like one too. That, in a nutshell, is freeze-dried food. It's the ghost of the food, all of its structure and goodness, just waiting for water to bring it back to life. It's a culinary magic trick powered by physics. You might think this is some newfangled invention from a high-tech laboratory, and you'd be partly right. The technology is advanced. But the basic idea is as old as the hills, or at least as old as very cold, high-altitude mountains. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty of how it all works, but first, let's set the stage. Freeze-drying, or lyophilization if you want to sound extra smart at a dinner party, is the gold standard of food preservation. It's why astronauts can enjoy shrimp cocktail in space, and why you can have a bag of emergency food that will still be good to eat when your kids are heading off to college. Why should you, a curious cook and eater, care about this? Because freeze-drying is changing the way we think about food. It affects everything from the emergency preparedness kits in our basements to the snacks in our kids' lunchboxes. It's found in high-end restaurants, in military rations, and even in your pet's food bowl. Understanding this process gives you a new appreciation for the science in your pantry. So, grab your lab coat and a healthy dose of curiosity. We're about to take a deep dive into the wonderfully weird world of freeze-dried food, and trust me, it's going to be a fun ride. Alright, let's pull back the curtain and see how this amazing trick is done. The process of freeze-drying isn't just about making things cold, it's a carefully controlled, three-step dance with physics. The star of this show is a nifty scientific principle called sublimation. That's a $10 word for when a solid, in this case ice, turns directly into a gas or water vapor, without ever melting into a liquid. Think of it like a puddle on a very cold, dry, windy day that just disappears without ever looking wet. This little move is the secret to keeping the food's structure intact, which is what makes freeze-drying so special. The first step is, you guessed it, freezing. But this isn't like tossing a steak into your freezer. The food is frozen very, very quickly to temperatures well below what your home freezer can handle, often down to minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit or even colder. This rapid freezing is critical because it creates tiny ice crystals. If you freeze food slowly, big jagged ice crystals form, and those sharp crystals will tear through the food cell walls. That damages the texture and structure. By flash freezing, we create small, smooth crystals that leave the food's cellular architecture perfectly preserved, like a building frozen in time. Next comes the main event, primary drying, which is where sublimation works its magic. The frozen food is placed inside a vacuum chamber. A vacuum is just a space with very little air pressure. The machine sucks almost all the air out, creating an environment where water would rather be a gas than a liquid. Then, a tiny bit of heat is gently added. This little bit of energy gives the ice crystals just enough oomph to sublimate, to turn from solid ice directly into water vapor. The vacuum pump then whisks this water vapor away, leaving the food behind, now about 95% free of its original water content. But we're not done yet. To make sure that food is truly shelf-stable for the long haul, we have to get rid of any lingering water molecules that are stubbornly clinging to the food. This final step is called secondary drying, or desorption. The temperature inside the chamber is raised slightly, just a little bit more than before. This encourages those last few tightly bound water molecules to break free and turn into vapor. Once they're gone, the food is officially freeze-dried. It now contains only 1 to 2% of its original water, making it incredibly light and inhospitable to the microorganisms that cause food to spoil. Believe it or not, the concept of freeze-drying isn't a modern invention. The basic principle was discovered long ago by ancient civilizations living in very specific environments. The Inca people of the Andes Mountains in Peru were the original masters of this craft. They lived at high altitudes where the temperatures would drop below freezing at night and the air pressure was low. They would leave their potatoes and other crops out on the mountaintops. The cold night air would freeze the food, and the low pressure and dry sunny days would cause the ice to sublimate, slowly turning the food into a lightweight preserved product called chuno. It was an ingenious survival technique. The science behind this natural process wasn't formally understood until much later. Fast forward to the early 20th century, when scientists in laboratories began to replicate these conditions with machines. A French physicist named Arsène d'Arsonval was one of the pioneers. But the technology really took a giant leap forward during World War II. There was a critical need to transport blood plasma and penicillin to soldiers on the front lines without refrigeration. These medical supplies would spoil quickly. Scientists developed industrial-scale freeze-drying techniques to remove the water, making the plasma and medicine stable, lightweight, and easy to ship and rehydrate on the battlefield. After the war, the applications for freeze-drying began to expand into the food industry. But its most famous and glamorous role was yet to come: space travel. When NASA was planning the Apollo missions to the moon, they faced a huge challenge. How do you feed astronauts on a long journey in a tiny spacecraft where every ounce of weight matters? Canned food was too heavy and frozen food required bulky freezers. Freeze-drying was the perfect solution. It made food incredibly lightweight, it didn't need refrigeration, and it could be easily rehydrated with a water gun. The iconic freeze-dried ice cream became a symbol of the space age. From ancient mountains to the battlefields of Europe and all the way to the moon, freeze-drying has had quite a journey. It started as a clever observation of nature and evolved into a sophisticated technology that solved some of humanity's biggest logistical problems. Each step of the way, from preserving potatoes for an Incan family to ensuring an astronaut could have a tasty meal in zero gravity, the goal was the same: to make food last. This rich history shows us that while our tools have changed, our fundamental need to preserve our harvest has not. It's a story of human ingenuity at its finest. So, we've established that freeze-drying is a pretty neat process with a cool history. But what makes it so special compared to, say, regular old dehydration? Well, it comes down to 4 major advantages that make it the superhero of the food preservation world. The first, and arguably the most important, is its incredibly long shelf life. Because nearly all the water is removed, the bacteria, mold, and yeast that cause food to spoil can't survive. They need water to grow and do their dirty work. Without it, the food remains in a state of suspended animation, perfectly preserved for years, even decades, if stored correctly. The second huge benefit is nutritional retention. Many other preservation methods, especially those involving high heat like canning or traditional dehydration, can destroy delicate vitamins and nutrients. Heat is the enemy of things like vitamin C and vitamin A. But because freeze-drying happens at very low temperatures, it's remarkably gentle on the food's nutritional content. Most of the vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants present in the fresh food are locked in place. This means that when you rehydrate a freeze-dried strawberry, you're not just getting the flavor and color back, you're also getting a nutritional profile that is surprisingly close to a fresh one. Benefit number 3 is a game changer for anyone who has to carry their food on their back. It's incredibly lightweight and portable. Water is heavy. In fact, most fresh foods are anywhere from 70 to 95% water. When you remove all of that water through sublimation, you reduce the food's weight by a massive amount. A bag full of freeze-dried food weighs a fraction of its fresh or canned equivalent. This makes it the go-to choice for backpackers, mountaineers, soldiers, and astronauts, anyone for whom minimizing weight is a top priority. You can carry days' worth of meals without feeling like you're hauling a bag of rocks. Finally, there's the fantastic taste and ease of use. Because the food's physical structure isn't damaged by big ice crystals or shriveled by heat, it rehydrates beautifully. When you add water, it flows back into the porous, sponge-like structure, plumping the food back up to something that closely resembles its original state. The flavor, color, and texture are far superior to what you get from other drying methods. Plus, it's simple. Most freeze-dried meals just require adding hot or cold water and waiting a few minutes. No complex cooking required. It's convenience without sacrificing quality, which is a combination that's hard to beat. Now that we know why freeze-dried food is so great, let's look at where it pops up in our modern world. Its applications are more widespread than you might think, extending far beyond astronaut ice cream. One of the most common uses is in outdoor recreation. For hikers, campers, and mountaineers, freeze-dried meals are an absolute staple. They provide hot, nutritious, and satisfying food like beef stroganoff or chicken teriyaki at the end of a long day on the trail, all from a lightweight pouch. The ability to have a gourmet meal with minimal weight and fuel is a revolution for anyone exploring the great outdoors. It's a far cry from the old days of subsisting on nuts and dried meat. Another critical application is in emergency preparedness. Natural disasters like hurricanes, earthquakes, or even power outages can disrupt food supply chains in an instant. Having a stockpile of food that doesn't require refrigeration and can last for 25 years or more provides incredible peace of mind. Families, governments, and humanitarian organizations all rely on large reserves of freeze-dried food to be ready for the worst-case scenario. These kits contain everything from powdered milk and eggs to full meals, ensuring that people have access to safe and nutritious food when they need it most. It's an insurance policy you can eat. Of course, we can't forget its role in space exploration. Every astronaut on the International Space Station eats a diet that heavily features freeze-dried items. The menu is surprisingly diverse, with over 200 different food and drink options available. Rehydrating food in zero gravity presents its own unique challenges, which is why the packaging is specially designed with water injection ports. This allows astronauts to prepare their meals without creating floating crumbs or droplets that could damage sensitive equipment. Freeze-drying remains the only practical way to provide a varied and palatable diet for long-duration space missions to the Moon, Mars, and beyond. But freeze-drying isn't just for extreme situations, it's making its way into our everyday kitchens and pantries. You can find freeze-dried fruits as crunchy, healthy snacks, or as inclusions in breakfast cereals and granola bars. Chefs use freeze-dried powders made from herbs, fruits, or vegetables to add intense, concentrated flavor to dishes without adding extra moisture. And let's not forget our furry friends. The pet food industry has embraced freeze-drying as a way to create high-protein, raw-diet pet foods and treats that are shelf-stable and highly palatable for dogs and cats. It's a technology that serves us from the wilderness to our own homes. As wonderful as freeze-drying is, it's not a perfect technology. Like any process, it comes with its own set of challenges and drawbacks. The first and most significant hurdle is the cost. Building and operating a commercial freeze dryer is an expensive endeavor. These machines are complex pieces of equipment requiring powerful freezers, strong vacuum pumps, and sophisticated control systems. This whole process is also very time-consuming, often taking 24 to 48 hours to complete a single batch. All of this, the fancy equipment, the long processing time, and the energy required to run it, adds up, making freeze-dried food significantly more expensive than canned or traditionally dehydrated options. The second major challenge is the sheer complexity of the process itself. Freeze-drying is not as simple as just pushing a button. Each type of food behaves differently and requires its own specific recipe of freezing rates, vacuum levels, and heating temperatures to achieve the best results. A delicate raspberry needs a much different cycle than a dense piece of cooked chicken. Developing these precise protocols requires a lot of scientific research and development. If the process isn't optimized correctly, you can end up with a poor quality product that doesn't rehydrate well or has a shorter shelf life, wasting both time and money. It's a true science and sometimes a bit of an art. We also have to consider the environmental impact. The freeze-drying process is very energy-intensive. Running those powerful refrigeration systems and vacuum pumps for long periods consumes a great deal of electricity. While the lightweight nature of the final product can reduce transportation-related carbon emissions, the energy used during production is a significant environmental consideration. As the industry grows, companies are facing increasing pressure to develop more energy-efficient machines and processes to reduce their carbon footprint. Making this high-tech preservation method more sustainable is a key challenge for the future. Finally, there's the issue of packaging. To maintain that incredible 25-plus-year shelf life, freeze-dried food must be protected from two things: oxygen and moisture. Even a tiny bit of either can ruin the product over time. This means it has to be packed in high-barrier materials, which are often multi-layered pouches made of foil and plastic. While these materials do an excellent job of protecting the food, they are often difficult or impossible to recycle. As consumers become more environmentally conscious, the industry is searching for more sustainable packaging solutions that can provide the necessary protection without contributing to landfill waste. So what does the future hold for this chilly food technology? The trends we're seeing today point toward a future where freeze-drying becomes more accessible, more versatile, and more sustainable. One of the most exciting developments is the rise of home freeze-drying machines. For decades, this technology was confined to industrial factories and scientific labs. Now, several companies are producing countertop-sized units that allow everyday consumers to freeze-dry their own food at home. This opens up a whole new world of possibilities for preserving garden harvests, creating custom meals, and reducing food waste right in your own kitchen. Another major trend is the explosion of plant-based foods. As more people adopt vegetarian, vegan, or flexitarian diets, there is a growing demand for convenient, shelf-stable, plant-based meals. Freeze-drying is perfectly suited for this. It can preserve the delicate textures of plant-based meats, cheeses, and entire meals in a way that other methods can't. Imagine lightweight, instant backpacking meals featuring complex plant-based ingredients, or emergency food kits that cater to diverse dietary needs. This is a huge area of growth and innovation, making long-term food storage more inclusive than ever before. As we discussed, the environmental impact of freeze-drying is a real concern, and the industry is actively working on solutions. The push for sustainability is driving innovation in machine efficiency and process optimization. Scientists and engineers are developing new systems that use less energy, recycle heat, and shorten cycle times. There is also a lot of research going into green packaging materials that are biodegradable or easily recyclable, but can still provide the necessary barrier against oxygen and moisture. The goal is to make freeze-drying a truly sustainable method of food preservation for the 21st century and beyond. Finally, we're likely to see freeze-drying used in even more creative and unexpected ways in the culinary world. Think beyond simple meals and snacks. Chefs are already experimenting with freeze-drying sauces, foams, and other delicate components to create surprising textures and intense flavors. We might see the technology used to create novel ingredients for molecular gastronomy, or to develop new types of functional foods with enhanced nutritional properties. As the technology becomes more refined and accessible, the only limit will be the creativity of the people using it. The future of freeze-drying is not just about survival, it's also about deliciousness. For the longest time, if you wanted to get your hands on freeze-dried food, you had to buy it pre-packaged. The idea of doing it yourself was pure science fiction, reserved for those with a laboratory and a PhD, but times have changed. The single biggest revolution in this space for the home cook is the advent of the home freeze dryer. These are compact countertop appliances that bring the power of industrial lyophilization right into your kitchen. They work on the exact same principles as their massive commercial cousins, freezing, creating a vacuum, and gently warming the food to trigger sublimation. It's a remarkable piece of technology for the dedicated foodie or homesteader. So, what can you do with one of these machines? The possibilities are nearly endless. You can preserve the bounty from your summer garden, turning bushels of tomatoes, berries, and zucchini into shelf-stable ingredients you can use all year long. You can freeze-dry leftover meals like chili, stew, or lasagna, creating your own custom just-add-water dinners for busy weeknights or camping trips. This is a game-changer for reducing food waste. Instead of letting those leftovers languish in the fridge until they go bad, you can preserve them perfectly for years. It's like having a pause button for your food. Having a home freeze dryer also allows for complete control over your ingredients. When you buy commercially prepared foods, you're often getting added salt, sugar, and preservatives you might not want. By freeze-drying your own food, you know exactly what's in it. This is fantastic for people with food allergies, dietary restrictions, or those who simply want to eat a cleaner diet. You can create custom snack mixes for your kids, prepare special diet meals for emergency kits, or even make your own high-quality single-ingredient pet food. You become the manufacturer with full quality control. Now, it's important to be realistic. These machines are a significant investment, both in terms of cost and the counter space they occupy. They also require a bit of a learning curve to get the best results, and the process, as we've learned, takes time, often a full day or more per batch. It's not for the casual cook, but for those who are serious about food preservation, self-sufficiency, and reducing waste. a home freeze dryer represents an incredible tool. It's a bridge between ancient preservation techniques and futuristic technology, and it's something you can now have right on your own home range. So, we've journeyed from the high peaks of the Andes to the vacuum of outer space. We've peeked inside the atom-level science of sublimation and looked at the practical challenges of cost and energy. We've seen how freeze-drying has served humanity in times of war exploration and natural disaster. After all this, one thing is abundantly clear. Freeze-dried food is far more than just a novelty. It is one of the most powerful tools we have in our ongoing quest to keep our food safe, nutritious, and available when and where we need it most. It's a testament to human ingenuity. The importance of this technology really comes down to resilience. In a world with complex supply chains and unpredictable events, having a way to store food for the long term, without needing constant energy for refrigeration, provides a vital safety net. It empowers individuals to be prepared for emergencies and enables humanitarian organizations to respond effectively to crises around the globe. It ensures that our astronauts can stay healthy on long missions, pushing the boundaries of human exploration. Freeze-drying is, at its core, a technology of security and preparedness, giving us a buffer against the unknown. But it's not just about survival, it's also about enhancing our lives. It gives backpackers the joy of a warm, delicious meal in the middle of nowhere. It provides busy families with healthy, convenient snack options. It gives chefs a new palette of textures and flavors to play with. And with the rise of home freeze dryers, it's becoming a tool for creativity and sustainability in our own kitchens. It is simultaneously a high-tech industrial process and an increasingly personal one, bridging the gap between large-scale production and individual empowerment. As we look to the future, the role of freeze-drying is only set to grow. With a rising global population and the challenges of climate change, the need for efficient and effective food preservation methods will become even more critical. Innovations in sustainability and accessibility will continue to make the technology better and more widespread. So, the next time you crunch into a freeze-dried strawberry or add a scoop of freeze-dried herbs to your soup, take a moment to appreciate the incredible science and history packed into that tiny, lightweight bite. It's not just food, it's the future of preservation.